Check.
St. Vincent, my homeland, you gave me no mansion, no gold, no diamond, yet I love you a million for the things that you have to offer. Is more than my heart's desire. Lovely beach, tropical breeze.
Sing.
Always there within my reach.
I say I love you,
St. Vincent, me sweet little island, St. Vincent.
I say I love you,
St. Vincent,
the home of the blessed St. Vincent.
St. Vincent, St. Vincent. Sunrise.
Well, I can't stop it. I can't stop it. I'll play.
Can look at the sunset.
Yes.
Sweet Mother Nature. Such beauty, such splendor. Can live my life without fear. Freedom to go anywhere.
Here I say, you got love and you got peace. Yes. From Lasso Frere to the Grenadines, I love you, St. Vincent, me sweet little island, St. Vincent. I love you, St. Vincent, the home of the blessed St. Vincent.
St. Vincent, St. Vincent, I love you.
We're a different kind of episode this episode. This episode we have to pay some tribute and send some love, you know what I mean? If people in trouble, we deal with them. And anything we could do to help them, that's Caribbean people, we will help them. You know what I mean? I can't stop it tonight, I have to play till the end. I find it a long time I didn't play Calypso in an episode, so this is a good opportunity to bring back some. Sing! Yes, man. Yes? Sing for them, man. Yes?
Calypso and reggae to make me jaggy. Bamboo melody and in harmony. Night morning, Christmas and Carnival. You got so much bacchanal.
Cause wailing time is any time. I'm a line, I'm a line. And any time is wailing time. Because I love you, St. Vincent, me sweet little island, St. Vincent.
I love you, St. Vincent,
Me a
room, St. Vincent, St. Vincent, St. Vincent. I love you.
mango guava jelly, early morning fish tea, coconut water. What's here?
Farina and Saluka.
Yes, what's here again?
Pilau, crayfish and callaloo. Sauce, dumpling and manico.
Yes.
Roast breadfruit,
I eaten that.
blackfish ribs,
I know it's not by eating it.
and much, much more. Deliciousness.
Why? Because I love you,
St. Vincent, me sweet little island, St. Vincent. I love you, St. Vincent, home of the blessed St. Vincent. St. Vincent, St. Vincent, I
Well, no better time for a song like that. Voice of the man they call Alston Beckett Cyrus. You know him as Beckett. And a big song about St Vincent at that time when they could use songs, prayers, help, donations, anything that could help them through this rough time. You know what I mean? All of us sit down and watch it. And I can't imagine what it's like to be there now or to have evacuated their home. So much people talking about losing their livestock, their pets. They say farmers farm down to the last. And I mean, people had to walk away and leave everything. And some of them leave the whole island, the sweet loving island, St. Vincent, as Beckett say. And it's just a rough time. And we want to say our prayers. Keep them in your prayers. Keep them in your thoughts. You know what I mean? And teach your children about them. Let your children know what is happening too. Let them know it's our neighbor and the love we have. Like, I mean, introduce the thing yet. First, I get what's about this. Welcome to episode 45 of the Corey Shepherd podcast. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Listen, St. Vincent. I said I'm going to watch Ralph Gonsalves talk about what is happening in St. Vincent. I was waiting to hear what he had to say, since I hear this thing about threats of eruption and cruise ships heading there to evacuate people. It sounds scary to me. And one of the first things I see when Ralph Gonsalves was talking, well, before, when he started doing interviews, he was walking off for interviews all the time because things happening. The man had to be on the ground. He had to be a leader. He amongst his people. And boy, one of them interviews he do, that man never stopped welling up with tears. Never stopped crying in the interview at all. And listen, he's a man's man. If you ever watch Ralph, through the years, if you know him and you see the character, he's the kind of man who like, well, I mean, I'm trying to say. My words are always chosen so well, but he's a man's man. And to see him shed some tears, they make him more a man's man to me, yes, because, and you know what's funny about it is like, I picturing myself having to talk about a situation like that if something like that happened here. And I not just thinking about my own family and my own losses, but I had to think of my whole country and how we're going to recover from this as the man in charge. And I thinking to myself, I will probably break down. Knowing me, I don't know if I will make it through that whole thing. But what was surprising about him is he was going good on it until he started talking about the amount of help he get from neighboring islands, the amount of help he get from Barbados, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Trinidad, Guyana. How much people reach out and basically saying, listen, we could take people, we could send aid, wherever it is in need, just let us know. And in that moment of peril, danger, suffering, pain, whatever the word you could find, in that moment, that man was able to point out and feel the compassion in Caribbean people. And that is, boy, listen, that mean everything to me. So they have several drives. I mean, if you're on Instagram or Facebook or you're watching the news, they have several drives out there that collecting donations, collecting aid or personal care items that we could send to people both in St. Vincent and people who would have had to leave St. Vincent and go to other areas. Extend a hand, help as much as you could. I saw, just before I started recording here, I see an encouraging thing too. I saw that Venezuela sent, I think they say it was 40 tons or 20 tons of aid up the road there. They said they needed water, everything. I mean, you all see the images on social media where it looking like snow. Well, I just talk about my own experience with this because I don't think I've ever followed the eruption of a volcano like ever. I remember Montserrat, right? But if you're anywhere near my age, you probably remember Montserrat. And maybe the earliest time I remember it exploding, I want to say it's somewhere in the 80s into the 90s, but I know 97 had one and people died. And I remember being small, so it had to be somewhere between the 80s and 90s. Somebody go help me with that information. But when that Montserrat thing was going on, I don't know if I could have followed it like this. So I wasn't understanding. To me, it sounded like if the whole island got covered over and they had to abandon the place. I guess in my little interpretation of it back then, when people evacuate a place, they ain't coming back, But so I following this, and the first thing you saw was the huge clouds going up in the sky. And I guess you're watching enough TV to see that will happen. But in my mind, I guess TV thing again, I think it is a big violent thing that will happen. I guess not a lot of people got footage of the actual explosion. So maybe the smoke is what we're seeing as the aftermath. So maybe there was that violent thing. But as Jamaicans say, the smoke just tarry. It just stand up in the air. It not moving. That was something else to watch. Hey, Mother Nature is no joke, bro. I was just looking at this smoke way up in the air. And just solid. It was almost like a physical thing standing up there. And sure enough, people were evacuating, getting out of where they had to go. A lot of people started showing the ash at that point in time and what happened. I remember one guy coming on Instagram Live and saying that they're indoors, but hot stones pelting all about. And boy, listen, we 2020, I tell people 2020 was something else, but 2021 is like, despite what we might say with COVID and shutdown and lockdown and the world on pause, the world had no pause. Now the world going just as it had to go. And Mother Nature ain't on no pause neither. So within days now, by the time I following it, coming on to the weekend, I seeing the real McCoy now because lava flowing down the mountain. This is what my expectation would be to see when they say it erupt. So, boy, we really get to see it where lava coming down the mountain. I starting to wonder now, but who is recording this? Why are they not out of there? It moving slow. I would not think that. My layperson opinion or thoughts about it or impression of it would be that it coming down fast. But I don't know if it's moving slow enough so people feeling like they have time to get out. But I saw videos where it coming down and we're looking like a mania. The place looking well manicured and 2 tracks, like if a car is parked there, and it comes straight down in the yard and somebody recording this. Then you see one like it taking over a house, and with that level of heat and fire, blocks and cement and steel, mean nothing to that. That thing making that house like it literally just melt away the whole house. Same thing I see with that car. I don't know if you also saw the video with the car where it just engulfed the car, and that was it. That is it. Everything is gone. So I hope and pray that the people who recording that staying safe and staying far from that. I could imagine if you're recording that so close, it had to be hot. And I keep thinking, but why these people don't bust out? But I'm grateful for the visuals, because my impression of what a volcano should be was way off. So this make me, take it in and maybe even go online and watch some more volcanoes. I try to stay away from too much disaster. We've done in this COVID thing already. But I following it for the sake of this, and I'm grateful for all the other islands that taking in people. As I'm not sure what's Trinidad take on taking in people. I heard Ralph Gonzalez saying that we made agreement with them. He spoke to Stuart Young, he said, and the agreement is that once people vaccinated, they could come. So I'm hoping that they have a mechanism in place that they getting people vaccinated and getting out, or when they land here, we could vaccinate. Well, I know what we're doing with vaccines, but at least that process could be facilitated. And life first, yes, life first. Let people get out, get their families out of there, and get to dry and safe land. And when it's all said and done, the whole Caribbean will come together to head back there and let we clear out the debris and get the thing restarted. And what I would say, prayers going out to St Vincent, so keep them in our prayers as much as, they say prayer without works. My grandma used to tell me that all the time. So I will be joining in to chip in how I can to send, whether it's water or supplies or money. I'll find some avenues and make my contributions. And I encourage everybody who listens to this podcast to do the same. So as we're on the topic of vaccines and what needed coming out of St. Vincent to go to other countries, let me talk about our own vaccine situation here now. The thing about it, like, the more I spend time preparing to come here and talk, is the more I realize it. Either we winging it, or the idea is to keep things a secret so people don't get too ahead of themselves, I suppose. Control what we thinking. Don't let me get too loose with we thinking. And I don't know. It's hard to figure out. But let me give credit where it's due. Up to the time of recording this, we have 8,600 people vaccinated. That is almost exactly on pace of the 1,000 a day that they say they would do. So we give credit where it's due. The vaccine reach here exactly a week ago is when they started vaccinating people. And we call it 8 days, and they're at 8,600, ahead of the curve. Let me say it right way. They're ahead of the curve. So that's a good sign. And it also means that maybe my concerns about people being able to get the second vaccine before the expiry date, that was a waste of time too. So again, I taken back everything. I can't remember what I said last week, but whatever I say about it, that was bad at taking it back. Because if they're on pace to do the 15,000 in 15 days, it means the same 15,000 could come back in the 15 days and get it. And to add to that, the system seems to be getting, from what I see, increasingly more efficient by the day. Because at first there was a phone call system that you had to go and people are saying that you're on hold for a long time and all that to make your appointment for vaccine and all that. And it quickly moved from one RHA to the next where they were taking WhatsApp appointments so people don't have to waste time on hold. It's such a... I mean, one thing I would say though, is we should stop saying things like WhatsApp and things like it's breakthrough technology that we, maybe it's breakthrough for us in the public sector sometimes, but whatever it is, the WhatsApp thing seems to be working. I'm sure, of course, there have people who wouldn't have smartphones, especially in that target audience you're talking about, because outside of healthcare workers, the first group is the elderly. But people will help them. People will help them. If your grandmother home and thing, you wouldn't WhatsApp and make a little appointment for your grandmother. You would have to make the phone call anyway and be annoyed to be waiting on the phone long. So that seems to be moving, and that's a real positive sign. So let's hope we continue along that road. And I am here to give credit where it's due. I also saw, coincidentally, the head doctor, CMO, Dr. Parasram, coming out and saying that the Prime Minister, who had, as we said last week, had contracted COVID. Did we talk about that here last week? Wait, no. Come in to think about it. I think the episode last week went out before Dr. Rowley got caught. Wait, I had to change everything I come here to talk about. So, we wishing the doc a speedy recovery. I really thought I talked about that last week, We wishing the doc a speedy recovery is so unfortunate. And the thing about it is, like, when you look at the amount of risk healthcare workers put themselves at. Remember, I think I was talking about that just in the last episode too. There are several other type of workers that put themselves at risk every day. Like I was referring to the people in the supermarket and so on that I feel should get like preference to be vaccinated because we need them and they're out there every day. People working in pharmacy. Well, I guess pharmacy will fall under healthcare. But definitely people working in food establishments, restaurants and so on. And of course, politicians. I'm not sure why people so upset that the politicians getting vaccinated first and they out there every day. Even the ones who in the press conferences all the time. Why wouldn't we get them vaccinated first? I think they're at a higher risk than us. But Dr. Parasram saying that having contracted the virus, Dr. Rowley will have to wait 6 months before he vaccinated. But we wish him a speedy recovery. And he has already made some statements. I heard him on I-95. Let me just play a clip from I-95.5 where he was talking about the way he feeling. And I find the man singing good, which is a great sign. Take him in here.
I'm doing as good as I can. I'm doing well. I have tested positive for the virus in a pandemic, and
Big Rowley here.
I'm doing as good as I can. I'm doing well. I have tested positive for the virus in a pandemic, and while I was a little surprised because I was doing all that I thought I could do and a bit more to not be exposed, but I have no idea where I was exposed or how I got this virus, but I know I'm in an environment where the virus is present. So that, having been said, is not important. What is important now is that my body has responded in a way that I am not symptomatically sick, and I'm glad that I was so tuned in to the protocols that as soon as last Monday night, when I started feeling my nose itching and I started sneezing a little bit more than I have experienced any time before without having a flu, I told myself that these are flu-like symptoms because during the night I started to have a bit of a runny nose. And I said, these are flu-like symptoms, and the response to flu-like symptoms is to get tested. So at daybreak, as soon as I woke, I made contact with the doctors here in Tobago. And I told them what I experienced during the night, and I need to be tested as they agreed. And lo and behold, I was positive. And that was a little surprising, fortunately. Since then, my condition has not worsened. All my vitals are very good. I've been monitored constantly by the doctors here in Tobago. And thank God I'm in quarantine. My last report is that I'm positive for COVID. But I have no symptoms which are causing me any concern at this time. I will be tested. I'll be swabbed tomorrow. Tomorrow will be, I think, 7 or 8 days since I've been in quarantine. And so Monday, tomorrow will be 8 days since I had the symptoms and 7 days since I've been in quarantine. And according to our protocol, I'll be tested tomorrow and see what the result is. And I'll follow the pathway that is laid down for persons in my situation.
Yeah, so he came on and said that, and that would have been Sunday gone, right? Now, that test that he was referring to that he was going to take Monday also came back positive, so it's no real good news for him yet. He still had to stay in quarantine and do the right thing, and he was encouraging people to do the right thing all the time. So I have all confidence that he's going to continue to do the right thing. Unlike certain people, and I don't usually do this, but I talk about certain people in this podcast because, me and politicians, I can't take them sometimes. So when I see, well, before I get to that, right, I'll talk about the opposition and their cohorts soon. But let me talk first about Materi. So there was an article written in the Express last week. I think it was an editorial, funny enough, you know what I mean, where it would probably, in my understanding of newspapers and things, I would think the editorial getting the most scrutiny more than any other article going in the paper. And the Ministry of Health had to put out a statement showing how wrong they were about the incubation period and so on. So they were just talking about people coming out before quarantine time or the length of time that people should be quarantined, I should say. And the ministry was just coming out and saying that they're not taking into consideration the incubation time. Anyway, the point I'm making is this. They typically say it will take a week or two between when you're exposed to the virus and when symptoms start to show. So when I look back through my episodes to see what it is I talked about last, materials is all, how much do you think the boss get COVID from Faris when he was going live? We need to do some contact tracing here. Let me not start no bad rumor and start no rake. But I just find it strange that it was just about exactly a week and a half ago that Faris went and fight with Johnny Bravo and Alexander and these folks. But I guess nobody on that side turned up positive. So my theory was that when he come out, he gonna cuff down Faris. But I suppose he ain't gonna do that. He's a good man, you know what I mean? But back to the opposition. The opposition decide that because the doc contract COVID, they are not going to show up in the parliament when it was time for them to show up. And boy, listen to this here now. This place, we jokey bad. We're doing anything for points now. We getting in desperate season. I feel like if an election coming up that I don't know about, Rowley going to call one of them snap election like my Manning do back in the days. Because the one thing, I guess the opposition staying prepared. But listen, I hope that they understand that kind of behavior only works for their base. It only works for the people who are already going to vote for you no matter what you're going to do. So I suppose you always have to play to your base and strengthen your base. And it annoys to no end. Well, of course, the people who are red and catch up, they will never see anything you do as good. So they go and get annoyed regardless of what you do. But I want to speak on behalf of the 33% of this country who are middle of the road and don't like none of you, or really looking for information to decide on who should be leading. Those things annoy. What you call us again? I in the group and I forget the name of the group. The undecided voter. Them things very, very annoying because it's see-through. It's so transparent. It's such a attention grab that is a shame. Because y'all are showing up in that same parliament all the time to debate this, that, and the third and to accuse each other of everything that you could accuse each other of. And that same parliament, I was talking about how much precautions were taken when they first reopened Parliament and y'all are going back in person. So you're trying to tell me that y'all now realize that you're at risk of contracting COVID or you're out there because that news came out. And you're trying to come and say now that the doc was irresponsible in the way he managed, because that's the narrative all you're trying to put out there. Only openly coming with a narrative that's saying, and not just openly coming with a narrative, letting it be known publicly that this is a narrative we're pushing. Because I get into Ian Alleyne soon, and I hear Ian Alleyne say, in his folly, in the midst of his folly, like he forgets where he was, and he said, that is what we're running with. While he ranted and raving about Rowley, and we will get to him, but he said, die what we're running with. In other words, you're trying to tell people, that statement, that is what we're running with. That is what always having all your private WhatsApp groups and all deciding collectively what is the narrative all you're pushing. But you make a mistake and it slip. I hear the slip. We go play it. But only coming out with a narrative that the doc was irresponsible, and so he went to Tobago and Lime. So he was on Pigeon Point too. And now see our next video coming out. Like if the boat, anyhow, let me not stray too far. I want to talk about the opposition. I'll come back to Pigeon Point, right? But only coming out like if the parliament is now the most unsafe place. And the thing about it is this, right? I felt like it was the right thing to do, but the way it was done, it just so cheesy. I guess the yellow cheesy. It was cheesy. Because let's say I find out PriceSmart Shogunus. So many times I find out PriceSmart Shogunus had somebody who would have contracted COVID would have been in PriceSmart sometime before. Or First Citizens Bank in Shogunus was one of the places that we hear that. Or Price Club in Shogunus was one of the places that we hear that, right? I wouldn't go myself. I would say, well, all right, let me get low and see where it is happening before I sort of head back there and so on and let them go ahead and sanitize and all those things. I would have done the same thing. Or they could have just come out and say, listen, all the best to the doc. We're sorry he contract COVID and stuff. We don't wish that on our worst enemy. And we thought it would have been the prudent thing to ask for Parliament to be delayed given what was happening or write for their exemption, which I believe that the Speaker did. And they said they did as well. Again, them the benefits of the doubt that they did. I suppose that they did. And they stay away. But when you stay away now, you can't help but have a press conference. And in that press conference, to run with the narrative, let me run with that the doc was being irresponsible. That is how he contract COVID. Well, boy, listen. This world is a circle. Me ain't calling that nobody, yeah? But I think I as exposed to COVID as the other man. I know plenty people who contract COVID already, and gratefully they get through and so on. They come back, everybody healthy and everybody good. So be careful when all they say any kind of things all they say, and be careful what you're using to your advantage for short-term gain. Because boy, listen, what they say, time longer than twine. So only go to that. Let me get to my guy Ian Alleyne, because if you listen to this long enough, you know as a man like to listen to Ian Alleyne. So that is my guy. Ian Alleyne is my guy. I like to watch Ian Alleyne's show. I find he's do plenty to help people who might be able to help themselves and so on. But he can't help himself with the political thing. Since he started to become he's a full member of the UNC, running for positions within the UNC and so on, running for parliament. And we just talked about him the other day too, how he get back his job on CNC. Very glad for the man, But he had to go a little extra. He just can't help himself. Because I don't know why one of the things about political parties in this country is that love for UNC must be expressed as hate for PNM. And adoration of Dr. Rowley must be expressed as hate for Kamala Persaud-Bissessar. I don't like it. And I said it before many, many times. I don't like this narrative that we push every single time something happened in UNC. Kamala drunk. What we doing? Why we have to stoop to that every single time? And then we be vexed with them when they say things like this. But I go call out both sides, because I want to get to what Ian Alleyne had to say when he find out Dr. Rowley had COVID. Let me play it here.
So, to people out there, keep me in your prayer. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't want to die. I just don't want to die. I asked this person to make this video for me. If this is the last, I asked myself,
Sorry about that. That was your wrong clip. Technical difficulties. Blame it on the producer, right? I mean, it's a producer. But this is what Ian Alleyne had to say about Dr. Rowley getting COVID.
Boy, don't mash up. Because I answer my phone and I'm like, hello? Boy, not to see if anything happened to the Prime Minister. I tell you, it's not a matter of Rowley or Corona, It's a real people ready to take this man position in the PNM. Imagine man calling me and telling me, boy, I hope you support me, thing. I say, what? I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it. But at the end of the day, I just showing this bacchanal in the party right now. And I want you to, I would like you to go with that today. Bacchanal in the party. People, listen, and remember, Rowley has a lot of, he borderlining on a lot of, if I remember, he heart and thing with his throat and whatnot. I mean, I wish him a slow recovery, but at the end of the day, because he didn't care about us. He didn't care about us in Trinidad. How many of you lost your loved ones over Corona in the last year and never even went to a funeral? You think they care? You really think they care? It's only when Attorney Gerald Ramsden took them to court, is then the CMO say, yeah, we can have a glimpse of your loved one who passed away as a result of corona. And that is craziness. That is really, really craziness. So I've been honest with you, I've been honest with you. I don't care. He should go back like and see what he could do now. And then again, you don't know if it's a lie, because today, Tuesday, he was supposed to take his vaccine. But I ain't a lot of back and with our vaccine, I ain't tag change the tag.
Well, before you get into vaccine, sorry about the quality of the audio, but that was a live he was doing in his car. That you hear when he say Tuesday, that is the day the man contract COVID. That is when we get the news last week, Tuesday. And that is where you rush for a phone in your car with poor audio. You couldn't even wait to reach a studio to start you want everybody to hear what you had to say. Wish him a slow recovery. So he do I'll get into retraction to it, because he do a retraction, but that was the first time he said his slow recovery. It eventually went around the place when he did it on his show. And let me play the clips from the show, what exactly he had to say.
Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley has been tested positive. I wish you a slow recovery, sir. Prime Minister began experiencing flu-like symptoms yesterday. You went on the beach, you went all about. You went on the beach, you went here, you went there. So you don't know what to believe, but still you were locked down for 14 days. And we will treat you like you have corona. You will be treated like you have corona. Look how God, listen, man, God don't sleep now. God don't sleep now. Last year all this time, partner. Last year all this time, the 6th of April. Last year all this time, I ain't Cora, I ain't Cora normal. I ain't Cora, I know past Easter. But look at today, 1 year after, I'm on a different network, took my show to a different level. Look where he is right now. Yeah, look where he is. But you don't know what to believe. You just don't know what to believe. You just don't know what to believe. I wonder if they do if they did any contact tracing and whatnot. That is the same man. Remember when I came, when Diaz called me and told me corona. You remember him? That's why I don't feel sorry for him. I do not feel sorry for the pride. I do not feel sorry. I am very sorry. I do not feel sorry. I wish him a slow recovery. Let him go Lekoto and meet whoever Obia people he could meet and see. He need about 1 million vaccines. Let him go, because he don't feel sorry for us. They make us suffer for the Easter in Trinidad. Suffer us. We couldn't even enjoy a good beach. But wine, woman, and song in Tobago. Everybody flexing. It was like all inclusive. You pressure we bar owners. We couldn't do nothing. But you fed. I don't feel sorry. You locked down the Hindu community from going to the rivers to do their prayers. You lock them down. The Hindu people can't even go and do their shaving. But you know what? Or they could go to any beach. They fix back Macri fast. Macri breakdown. Look at Cora. Look at the bars. Don't bother with none of them. Do not feel sorry. Do not feel sorry, because they don't feel sorry for us. First thing for the day, I had to see the president and she mother don't get a vaccine already. And the poor people from Beatam, and the poor people from here, and the poor people from there, and Kwaito, and the people who don't have can't get nothing yet. Boy, you think I really want to hear them? You think I really want to hear them? You might want to hear them, but I don't want to hear them because they don't care about us.
No, you see, there's the thing. Let me be the one to bring the balance, because last year, around this time, which is where you start off this clip, Ian Alleyne, you crying. You don't want to die. You're crying with your son. You know what to do if they separate you from your son. You're in shambles because you're going and get separated from your son. You're going into Cora or Couva Hospital at the time, whichever one it was. And you can't go and hug up your son and tell him nothing. You ain't sure what to do because you don't know nothing about what this virus brings. You don't know how you will recover. You don't know if you will live or you will dead. But it's a year pass. And that's your statement. Look where I is now. I recover. I good to go. And look what's going on with you now. I wish you a slow recovery. That's the attitude of the thing. And the thing about me is, if you and a man is enemy, and you see the man go down, boy, it might sound bad, but me, I no problem if you sing and you don't care what happened to the man, you know. But boy, the hypocrisy is on 1,000. Because when you're there and you're crying, I don't understand either where the comparisons between what he could get, what Christian allowed to do on Easter weekend versus what Hindu allowed, are confused. And you're talking about beaches. So people was going on the beach and Rowley was gallivanting. I want to see where the video was of him gallivanting on the beach in Tobago, if you have that. But he was gallivanting and nobody couldn't go on the beach in Trinidad. I was in Tobago the week before Easter. I come back to Trinidad on Holy Thursday. And I said here last week that the police was on the beach. Or they was on Pigeon Point, they was on Store Bay. Just check back the last episode and see if I can talk about that. So I had to assume that he mean police had lockdowns or they was on the beach, because I remember Alexander going on the beach on Easter weekend and playing small goal thing in play, telling a man come for the ball. Like I must make up that in my mind. And then trying to play cricket with the worst set of bowling or pelting. I don't know what it's called that what Alexander was doing. It was terrible. But I remember seeing it. So I'm not sure what was lockdown. And this river versus Cora comparison, who you talking to? Who you sending signals to? It has somebody in particular you're signaling with this kind of talk you're talking? Because the Cora thing, and we can't go in Cora, but them have Macreep, and look how quick they fix up that. We careful with them language, eh? Careful with them language, or they pushing our agenda so that who could come out of power and you could get into power. But when you pushing that kind of agenda and you're ending that clip by saying who don't care about people, or they don't care about nobody neither, Ian Alleyne, you don't care about anybody. Nobody. Because if you could push the agenda that Cora, and last time I checked, Rivers not locked down, somebody had to correct me if I'm wrong. I think when the beaches was open, the rivers was open too. I could be wrong about that. But the fact that you're trying to insinuate that, Cora, they're locking down Cora, they're locking we down, but they're fixing up Macreep. Boy, that's dangerous language, boy. Dangerous talk. But he come and he make a retraction the week after, and my opinion about the retraction is this. Again, I could be wrong here. This is my opinion. Just 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago last month, he was still on Synergy TV doing Ian Alleyne News Network, IAN, I think it's Ian Alleyne Network or whatever it was, and submitting your shows to Synergy. Now you're back on CNC3, where you get fired from before. So when you make a statement like that, and the heads of the corporate parts of CNC3, the people who we know who own it, give you a call and say, boy, 2 weeks ain't passed yet. This is the statement you'll make. This is the first thing you will let go viral and go popular from what you're saying. You're not going to be able to stay here unless you go and pause a retraction. That is my opinion. But let me listen to the retraction.
I said something that was not nice on television yesterday. 2 things. I said that I wish the Prime Minister, see, people took it, people think that it's serious, but I know, and people know. Yeah, I wish, because when I heard about it, I said, that's a real sad boy, because I know he has, he's an elderly person, he's 71, and, when you contract corona, that virus, and you have history, a history of ailment and whatnot, as what? Pre-existing conditions. Well, I'm trying to break it down for everybody. Pre-existing conditions, it's frightening. And I said something, and there are children out there who are listening to me. And they might tell their grannies, when their mother say, Granny, I wish you a speedy recovery. That little child will say, Mommy don't say speedy, I wish you a slow recovery. That's not nice, that's a no-no. But it all comes back to me, what I said, and how I conduct myself. There are things that I would do in public. In fact, I might lie and do certain things, but again, I know people watch me. So to an extent, I have to behave myself. I mightn't be in Parliament, but I'm more popular than the parliamentarians in Trinidad. And I mean, that's across the board. More popular.
Yeah, listen to that, right?
I mightn't be a senator, but I'm more popular. So people listen. And I don't think it was nice of me to say, I wish the Prime Minister a slow recovery.
Right.
No. I don't think that was nice. That was disappointing of me to say that.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, and let me tell you something, don't feel that anybody telling me because I move here and I do, nobody didn't call me. Nobody didn't call me, partner.
Yeah, sure nobody in call you, it's true. So that was basically, now, I had to tell you that with that retraction, because this would have turned into the Ian Alleyne show, it was about 20 minutes before that of explaining how Chiron is listening to him and he had to do the responsible thing and he thought of it himself and he didn't like what he said. It had about 20 minutes before that. And about 20 minutes after that of him going over, if you don't treat us nice, you expect us to treat you nice, and if only take care of us, we'll take care of you. You have to reciprocate. Listen, you hear what it is, so you hear what he say first, and then you hear the retraction. So you make of that way you will. The man said nobody call him, so I guess we had to give him the benefit of the doubt, right? That he decided to come and put a retraction there by himself. All right, you're a big man, you come out and you apologize. And as I say, if you and somebody vex, because that's how I am too, if me and you vex something, you live your whole life, yes, whether you're sick, healthy, or indifferent, that don't bother me. As I told somebody the other day, if I don't talk to you and me and you ain't good, I don't talk about you neither. So you could be sick, thing, me and nothing to say. But to come out on a platform like that and to say it in the way you say it, I'm trying to figure out who you're talking to. It's something like you're sending a message to somebody. Like I say, there's the narrative we're going with. There's what we're going with. So is it a pre-planned thing and the responses that come in with this and so on? I know. It's odd. And as I'm talking about this, let me talk about myself here too. Because, and before I move from that, of course, a speedy recovery, as Ian Alleyne said, to the doc, and I hope everything good. That second COVID test came out negative on Monday. We're hoping that we could get over that and move forward. But one man didn't get to move forward was a fellow named Prince Philip. That's it for him. He out of here. And I was watching just a couple of weeks ago that they say he do major heart surgery at 19. I guess the goal is to keep them alive at all costs, yes, because when I see that man in that car going home, that man looked like he and all was shocked that he's still alive. So, I mean, having said that about Ian Alleyne, I addressed one of my own posts on Facebook this week where, as I would usually say about these Royals, you know how I feel about these Royals, right? That's out there already. That's documented. So when I see Prince Philip there, I went on Facebook and I was like, listen, my ancestors waiting for you. A man tell me how you know he and your ancestors going in the same place. Well, one of my ancestors' name is Shadow. You know him? And let me take a little piece of Shadow song to tell you how I feel about them fellas. Shadow has a song named Judge's Jump. You go and find it on YouTube yourself, right? And I go make my own version of it so you know how it feels. And why my ancestors waiting for him. Shadow say, well, he said judges, right? But I go say royals. I want to catch them royals in hell and have them jumping. Just jumping. No fooling. I want to wet them up with some blows and have them jumping. Just jumping. No stopping. And when I tell you jump, you have to jump. Ba-dum, bum, 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 bam, 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 bam. And when I tell you stop, keep jumping up. And if I catch you jumping up slow, I'll bust you too. So you see, a man like Shadow, who's one of my ancestors, he waiting for men. The point of that song was Shadow say he was entering too much competition and judges and them they want to let him through and they ain't letting him win at all. So he say he gonna be waiting for them in hell. You know Shadow like to see you from hell, right? So yeah, my ancestors waiting for you in hell, my brother. So rest in peace. Let me do the Ian Alleyne and let me talk more like the retraction than the first statement. Rest in peace. Condolences to your royal family and so on. And I hope the best. How you say this again? I don't know how else to put it now. I don't want to be like Ian Alleyne, but my ancestors are waiting for you, Prince Philip. Sorry. And I address one of my fellow podcasters, my brother Brian Heeraman. Let me talk about Brian. I don't do this often, But check out, of course, listen to Brian Heeraman. Viewpoint is available everywhere my podcasts available. And that's easily one of my favorite podcasts here. But it's going to be one of my favorite podcasts to fight with. Because I listened to Brian episode this week. And hear Brian talk about this same thing with Prince Philip. Now, there's a narrative that is going wrong in this country, and I hear it come up in our podcast, and that's the only reason I'm bringing it up now. Usually I would wait till I see Brian and discuss any kind of issue with him. But when he bring up that, I had to talk about it because it's just like I saying Ian Alleyne sending signals to people when he's saying his thing. When I listen to Brian, they have a narrative that is going wrong in this country, right? Where people like to tell other people how they should face tragedy, recover from tragedy, deal with tragedy, and so on, and how bad it was for them versus how bad it was for you, and all this kind of thing. And I make it here, so you should. We like that kind of thing. So I want to talk about it real quick, before we get on to the real things. You see this talk about black people must forget slavery. Look how long ago slavery was. And every time you say something, like I say something about my ancestors waiting for them, I don't mind if you have a problem with that, you know. If you have a problem with that and you find I should have respect for the dead, tell me that. But you see, when you start to slide in while you're telling me that, look how long ago slavery was. That's the first one. There's always coming that. Look how long ago slavery was. So I have a timeline on when I'm supposed to stop thinking about it. All right, cool, no problem. Because if that is the case, then we should never collectively make any effort to get in touch with any ancestors or find anything on our history beyond a certain point. Because if this suffering have a cutoff point, then the inheritances and the what I leave here for my future generations had to have a cutoff point too. But it seemed to be okay for some people in this country to get as far back into their heritage and ancestry, and I love it. But as soon as somebody else start to talk about their history and their ancestry and their interpretation of it, is a problem. That was so long ago. The next thing you like to hear, which I hear on Brian podcast too, is you was never a slave. Listen, don't come to me with them kind of thing. You know, you see me when you're talking to me about them thing, better we don't talk about that at all. Better we skip it as a topic as a whole. Because when you come into me with them things, you suspect, you're shaky. When you say I was never a slave, what are you trying to tell me? The things that affected the people before me, positive or negative, have no impact on my life and the way I live at all. And shouldn't have any impact. So I'm supposed to ignore that. Forget about that. That done pass already. Well, if that is the case, again, if I had to forget all the negative things that happened to me, to my ancestors or whatever happened before I was on this earth, how come other people could enjoy all the positives? And me too. You're comfortable with me enjoying the spoils of people who came before me. So if I came, to explain what I mean, if I come from a very wealthy background, let's say, nobody ever comes and say, well, hey, your grandfather had a set of money, you should give it back. Nobody ever comes and say that. You know, everybody cool because you're good. You're one of the good ones. But when I come and I say, I have a problem with this and I'm starting from a minus and we didn't have anything and I don't know. If for instance, I try to get in touch with my African heritage, I don't know which part of Africa to go. So look to my guy Roger who gave my ancestry test the other day where I do the kind of saliva testing and I find out what do you think say boy I was from somewhere in Ghana. Me and him know which part of Ghana to start. They say in Ghana, like I from Ghana, like if Ghana is Tobago where you could just go and ask somebody. You don't know where to start. And don't get me wrong, I don't find nothing wrong with it. I personally I am comfortable in that space. So I could decide for myself how much work I want to do to find out where I come from. And I understand that is one of the things that people trying to say, like Brian, because Brian has no ill intent towards nobody. But if you ever believe in anything I say in this podcast, or if you listen to this and you find I'm a balanced person and stuff, don't cut it off here. Listen to what I'm saying. Just try and understand where I'm coming from. Brian is not a person who have no ill intent towards nobody. He would not be my partner if that is the case. But I'm just trying to show people why statements like that are inflammatory and useless. And it is insulting. So I in a space where I main care what happened generations before me. I care enough to know what it is and know where I am. But I don't ever feel like it will keep me back from achieving the things I want to achieve in life. And I go and put my life in a place where Zachary don't have to worry about that. He will know about it. I will educate him as to what it is and encourage him to educate himself way more than I could ever help him do. But I'm also going to put the things in place. I'm gonna make the moves. I'm gonna make it happen. I have a life. I waking up every day and I have the same 24 hours as everybody else, and I go and make it happen. But without ancestral ties, things like I don't want to say. I keep thinking hand-me-downs. What is the word I'm looking for? Like you never had generational wealth pass from one generation to the next. A part of your generational wealth get cut off and stolen by people who would be ancestors of Prince Philip and them. So when you understand how I do feel about them, I don't understand why people is be confused as to why Clarence Rambert, why, for instance, will say what she said. I don't understand why people is be confused about it. You can't see why somebody would feel that way. And when I say wealth, I'm not only talking about financial wealth. I'm talking about the wealth of, let's say, your medicine, your academics, your education, your languages. All of it was cut off. So when people say they're starting at a minus, understand where people coming from. Don't just take the stance that slavery is an excuse. Don't come to me with that. Don't come to me with that. Try and listen to what people saying, because everybody's perspective not going to be mine. My perspective is I go and figure it out in this little 80 years or whatever. What again I hear? Max 100 years, 80? What again? In whatever space of time you give me, I figuring it out and I'm moving forward. But I understand where I come from and I understand what was done. I understand the history of this place. I understand how I end up here. And you see, the nice thing about somebody like Brian that I always talk to is that he also understands where he come from, and I admire it. I aspire to be more like that. But don't come and say no, forget slavery and thing, and you was never a slave, and Prince Philip never owned slave and thing. I mean, these people govern over somebody. Anyway, I done. Enough of that. I can't talk about that no more. Too late in the night for me to be ranting about these things, yes? What I will talk about, though, as we on local podcast, is that Acacia's second season is up and running as of Sunday. First episode of season 2 is up, is about relationships. That's an Acacia Victory Lap. Be sure to check that out. It's always good to check out Acacia. And listen, fellas in particular, listen to that podcast, to find out how to get in with people. Yeah, I don't put it out there already that's the Get In podcast. It's going to give you all the secrets and all the hints as to what we do wrong, where we could go better, but most importantly, how we could get in. So everywhere you subscribe to mine, you could look up for Acacia Victory Lap. Is the hardest name to spell I come across in a long time. So work it out, right? Do the phonetics thing and work it out. But you know where to find it and go and take it in. Always good relationship advice. And as on relationship, before I move off of that, I want to talk about this. Now, you had to see the clip to get where I'm coming from and what I'm talking about here, right? So the best places to find it is on MYOB Entertainment or News Before the News. You'll always see them fellas sharp with the clips, you know what I mean? And or you could just search Cedros Fisherman Killed and you'll see it. Boy, I watching this thing that come up, and the story behind it is that a youth man, a young fella about 30-something years old, I think he was, get gunned down by what they're claiming that police gunned him. Elements start getting better at words like claim and alleged and so on, right? But they claim that his police killed the fella. So that the clip starts off with a bunch of people accusing the police of killing the guy. And you're seeing blood stain on the ground and the full works. But there's just one particular thing I want to talk about where that clip is concerned. Because a police officer on that scene looked real worried. And I don't know if worried is the right word, is what I'm looking for. I don't want to say guilty. I'm stopping just short of saying guilty. But he looking like if... You ever watch Training Day with Denzel Washington? When they went by the fella house, right? And they basically went to rob the man his money. They know people had a little stash, gangsters had a little stash, so in case things go bad, they could go and, you know what I mean? Run away with some cash. So they cut the man floorboard and take all the cash and thing. But when they leave in, they make up a whole story about how to kill Roger. And he said, well, all right, here we're going on. We're kicking the door, this, that. And then you take a shot. So we had to shoot one of the policemen in their bulletproof vest. So, but I remember that scene? That's what it looked like there. It looked like that policeman was Hoyt. Because he looked a combination of frightened, worried, guilty, remorseful, shocked. Like if it's his first day on the job and them men carry him on a Training Day scene. Like the woman tell him, pull down your mask, let people see your mask. The man pulled down his mask. And listen, when he was looking sorry before he pulled down the mask. When he pulled down the mask, he started looking more frightened. The next officer now on the phone. While all these people are opposing him, he on the phone and like he calling for backup. I don't know what's going on, but he using the personal phone. I don't know if they do, walkie-talkie backup in this country, like where you see on TV, but he on his phone trying to call somebody. And he not really looking guilty or worried or nothing. He just looking real on edge. And this man basically at one point started to pull up and what looked like an automatic weapon to me. Started to pull it up like he wants to point it at the crowd. And I'm thinking, nothing about this story, right? I don't know what the real story is, and you probably ain't know either. Like his wife come out and say, well, let me put this together. I might need Acacia help here to break down this relationship, but his wife, I suppose it had to be ex-wife, living opposite, and he living with his girlfriend in the house. And his wife come out of the house after she hear shots and say she hear 10 shots. And the police is who fire all the 10 shots. No, you had to add up that for me, because I want to know if you was inside. Like how when you come outside, you so sure that the police fired the 10 shots. And then the girlfriend come out and say she hear 4 shots. So boy, and I mean, I'm talking about they're saying like it's opposite, or the people close together, gunshots you're going to hear. But I just put it out there to take in the clip where how the policeman look. And it's really not a good sign, because I see on Alexander Instagram, he kind of came out against it in his own way. And he was saying, imagine crowd commenting police and say, hey, pull down your mask, and the police pull down your mask and show me your badge, and then the police show you your badge. And he's saying that he thought we was hiring men and women. He means to say like real men and real women in the police force. No half a man and no half a woman. And basically saying the policeman coward. He really looked like a coward in Alexander's defense. But I just find that it's something that we had to keep an eye on at all times. Because we were talking about this just when they had Andrea Barrett case recently, where SWAT sent a team to investigate. And when they reached there, it are no more suspect. Suspect dead, man fall off chair, whatever it is happen. And you're hearing more and more now that police themselves being investigated for the disappearance of Andrea Barrett. And now we're looking at a situation like this again, which has come up many, many times, where residents accusing the police of executing people who didn't do nothing. The police wicked, right? So I mean, this situation, we probably will never know what exactly happened. And I don't know, rest in peace to the fisherman, quote unquote, and condolences to his family. But we just have to be careful when, as much as we bad talk the judiciary and it needs to change and reform and it's too slow, all that is true. But it's also true that it's a bad precedent for police to be taking matters into their own hand, regardless of what the situation is. And I'm saying that regardless of how frustrated we get. Because I myself is get frustrated sometimes, and sometimes you see the papers and the mother talking about he's a good boy, but the whole community know him and thing. Sometimes I myself is be saying, boy, listen, one less. But that attitude ain't gonna get me nowhere. And you see that one less thing, that only could hold up until is the one less. And with police, once that start to get wild in any society, then the police don't need no reason again to kick in no door or to pull up this one or to do whatever it is they feel. We have a good example in the States right there. I see a video this week in the States. It was all over social media, so you had to see it. It's with a lieutenant, an army man in a car, in his army fatigues, the man in army uniform. It's Lieutenant Caron Nazario. And 2 members from the police department. The video start where the police trying to get him out of the car. And the first video I see, you can't see the police officers. All you're seeing is the guy. By the time I come to record here, and you're seeing the videos from the point of view of one of the body cams, and it seems as though Nazario had a camera on his dashboard too. So you were seeing his face when he talking from his camera, and then the body cam listen. It's amazing to see how close that policeman was standing up to that car, pointing a gun at this man. And the backstory apparently is that it was a traffic violation. He decided that he not stopping in the middle of nowhere with these police. I'm glad he did that. And he drive all the way to a gas station where it was lit. So by this time, the police have him down as evading them or like it's a chase. So when they reach, his guns drawn and pointing down in the car and telling him, you know what I mean, come out the car, don't take off your seatbelt. You think about it, listen, that whole seatbelt thing. It's not Fernando Castillo was the man who was in his car with his wife and a child in the back of the car. And they asked him to reach for something, and the kind of half Chinese looking officer shoots up the man in his chest. You outside a car with a gun pointing at somebody. And when he reached for something, you so frightened. You shoot that man so much times in his chest with his woman right there. I don't know how she remained so calm. I had to be shocked. And the child in the back. It was the same thing with this. How you tell the man, I mean, in these circumstances, in what we're dealing with now, George Floyd case going on now, this is what we're talking about. And you basically barking orders at this man, your gun pointed, the man telling you, I'm in the service. The man say, I was in the service too. I learned to take orders. This is what the police telling him, I learned to take orders. I'm a veteran too. And he's saying, but I'm frightened to come out the car. The man said, well, you better be frightened. You're going to get ready to ride lightning. I said, but where is this world they're coming out from? Some of these police need to be random drug tested in these states. And I feel these fellas on some kind of drugs. Them fellas taking Adderall and meth or whatever it is it takes for them to be up and ready for action like this. Just drug test some of them randomly. Something ain't right. And when you look at that story, listen, they need only man for him to go down on the ground as soon as he come out the car, they pepper spray him more than once. It's all this other action. So, I mean, it's a real fine line we walking here in Trinidad, you know, because once the police get too much, the police should have a certain amount of power. But once you leave it where they are judge, jury, and executioner, and the judiciary backing up everything that they do anyway, you're going to have a problem. At least in this case, the police officer, one of the two police officers, was fired, and that was the one who was the main aggressor. He was really going all out. When you see it, boy, listen. But the other officer should also be dismissed or strongly reprimanded if he lose his job. And the reason I'm saying that is this. He looked like Hoyt from Training Day 2, because when you watch a video, good, his gun pointed and thing, but you know when a man when the teacher points a gun, you stretch it out in front with your two arms stretched out firm. Listen, this man gun by chest like if he playing gun shooting like long time when he just hide and seek and gun shooting. And he every time he say a command, he watching the other officer to see, he looking for cues. He not confident in what he doing there. He looking like if, to be honest, he looking like he bothered. He don't want to do it. But Joe Gutierrez, who was the aggressor on the scene, he's been let go. And that's the end of him. This incident coincidentally take place on the same day I get married. I don't know what I had to do with anything, but that is what it was. So that video resurfaced. That was an old video that came back up around this time. So, I mean, when I'm watching it the first time, I didn't know that. So I tell myself, but wait, these police didn't realize what's going on in the environment. Although that was after, of course, George Floyd was a whole year ago. But I think during the case, you will get on like this with somebody. But boy, I had to correct myself when I see it since last year. But without fail, yesterday, this is Monday now, Sunday, sorry. Another thing come up close to where George Floyd being tried. Boy, you can't make this up, no? With a youth man, Dante Wright, a brethren of mine, one, you might have even talked about him before. He and all called me. One is the most black and white person I know. He and no set of gray areas. One in not too much room. When one believe in something, you hear about that for the rest of your life. And I hear him telling me about that today and talking about how this youth man, Dante Wright, looking just like his son. You see, that is when things started come home and started land for people. So if you didn't see this story, I'll read from BBC News here. The fatal shooting of a black man by a police officer in the U.S. city of Brooklyn Center in Minnesota was an accident, the police chief said. Dante Wright, 20 years old, was shot after the officer meant to use a taser but mistakenly drew her gun instead. Chief Tim Gannon reports. Mr. Wright's death has sparked protests and curfews have been declared. Tensions in nearby Minneapolis are high as the trial of ex-officer accused of killing George Floyd continues. So it was basically a traffic stop. Now, you had to get into this story to understand what is happening. It's a traffic stop and this little youth man have a warrant at 20 years old. None of that does sound good. At 20, you have a warrant. The first thing is coming to your mind is criminal history. Pests, like we like to say, you know what I mean? Kill them pests. We like to talk like that here, you know. Well, when you're looking a little deeper into pests, you know what pests have a criminal history for? For weed. For a joint. For some little amount of marijuana. I don't know why we're still dealing with this as an issue at all where marijuana is concerned. Because as far as I'm concerned, even while weed was illegal, everybody used to smoke weed, high society, low society, people doing edibles. That was never an issue, but it's an issue for some 20 years old, he had get hold for weed. Whatever the fine is he had to pay, must he couldn't pay it, and a warrant end up on this youth man name to be arrested. So tell me if you still have him down as a pest now. You know what I mean? The youth man couldn't pay the fine. He think weed, I mean, how much you went through them kind of thing. People go through that all the time. Now this man dead because people over exuberant and I think now the youth man was wrong too because the police pull him over. And you could see in the video, while they're trying to handcuff him, he tried to wriggle away and run. And listen, we had to educate, especially my Trinidadian and Caribbean people in the States, so all they have black children and thing, all they educate them now. Because it would be, I guess sometimes I think through this as I saying it, but you might think that if you comply, you'll be okay. But we see situations where people comply and it's not okay. But I think it's your best bet. Rather than you try to run and thing, because then it's long case and his excuse and his this and that and then the policeman gonna get off and you lost your life and mother lost her son 20 years old baby. So he, as they have him turn around and facing the car now to handcuff him, he looked like he wriggled away. I don't know where he was trying to run to. Jump back in the car like he tried to drive off. And then the officer say, you could hear her telling them clear. Like when they're going to tase somebody and she's saying taser. And the rest of the officers let go and she squeezed. And when she squeezed, he was done kind of driving off already. He speed off. And then you hear her in the end of the video saying, oh my God, I think I shot him. And the other officer was like, what? I mean, all you hear the blast and thing, you must know you shoot him. So that the claims already going on. Even in this article I just read that it was accidental. So you know what going to come of that story? I mean, George Floyd Chauvin looking like he going down, right? But most of these trials, when they think she says an accident. Now I decided to dig a little deeper, I say, you know what? How you could mistake a taser for a gun? But then I realized, because when I think taser, my stupid mind going to hangover when they tase the man and thing, they hold him and tase him right there. Forgetting that in same hangover had a taser that was just like a gun, like it could tase somebody from a distance. So they're saying that the weight of a taser in your hand, you had to go to D.L. Hughley page, because it's on D.L. Hughley page I was going through. He's usually post all these things with any issues between black people and the police, or black people and white people in the States on a whole. He on top of these things. So he basically show you what a taser look like versus what a gun look like. Listen, the taser is a big yellow thing. Even the black ones have a big yellow clip in the end. And then he went on to show the video. His page was where I saw the body cam footage and all that first. And at the end of that little clip, he said that taser is on your non-dominant hand. So apparently there's hang on the belt on the left side if you're a left-hander. Sorry, on your left side if you're a right-hander. It weighs 8 ounces compared to the 2.6 pounds that a gun weighs when it's loaded. And that's supposed to be on your dominant hand. So a right hand if you're a right-hander. So the story ain't adding up. Now, in her defense, I don't want to be, on the wrong side of history here. But the thing about it is, in tense situations, I find plenty could go wrong. When the situation tense and you don't draw already, in your mind, you could be pointing that and well think you are your taser in your hand. These situations is be tense. But what I don't understand about the police in the States is like, where's the effort to de-escalate things? You know what I mean? Why the first move is not to de-escalate the situation? So again, if somebody running away from you, what are you thinking? That they're running away so that they get space so that they could turn around and shoot at you, or they're running away to escape? There seems to be they just want to draw for guns immediately, boys. So I mean, that is worrying when you look at it and you study. This is like JP say, like my partner once says, this could be my son, 20 years old. But I just started studying my sister and her children and my friends who living over there. And I mean, what kind of states we creating for ourselves? And now the US have a long history of things like that, and it could come from plenty different places, despite people like Brian trying to tell you to forget your history. Trinidad don't have that same history, and was not the same thing like they governing us. And in Trinidad, we policing ourselves and lawyering ourselves and judging ourselves and all that for the most part, right? We are the majority in our country. There's no white police here saying they're oppressing nobody and that kind of thing. But the parallel I'm drawing is that if you let get out of hand, where police feel they could settle any matter they want on the streets in the moment, don't bother to de-escalate and think whatever needs to be done, take care of it one time because quote unquote the judiciary not doing their job and all this kind of thing. We in some trouble. So again, awaiting, I thought by now we'd have a more coming from a very vociferous police commissioner on this issue. I say, well, we go here think fast. But my boy quiet these days because I ain't hearing much from him and his daughter. You know, the man say he not getting involved in police business with where they pull aside his daughter and the husband and was very rude and disrespectful to them. But I sure them was rude and disrespectful. Well, she looked like she was good getting it to them too. I find the police in that situation should find ways to be bigger and more mature than to say, you know, Ian Alleyne say, wish you a slow recovery. The police who stopped Gary Griffith's daughter is like, I wish you a good day, sir. I can't say the same for you, ma'am. It's like, what kind of pettiness? What are we dealing with? But no word from Gary yet, apparently. So he quiet these days. My boy laying low. You can't vex with him at all. But rest in peace to Dante Wright and condolences to his family. Young fellas. But boy, listen, everybody just stay tight over there. So the state's bound to get through this little period they're going through here, this 400-500 year period, but we're bound to get through it. It can't remain that way, and boy, sadly, sometimes things have to get worse before they get better. But let me keep an eye on Derek Chauvin too now. Let me see what we're going on with Chauvin and see if they're going to get a conviction where they're concerned, because officers getting fired, like in the case of a guy who tried to who basically put down the lieutenant and pepper spray and all that. At least he fired Chauvin and they might get fired, he and his squad. The next step is to get convictions so that police start to understand that they have more consequences involved when they take these kind of decisions or they act so hasty. And in fairness to the police too, we need to get more training for the police. Them men and them, some of them men frightened bad, you know. Is there plenty height on the police force, you know what I mean? So we had to strengthen up them height on them, man, strengthen them fellas' jaws so they could go out there and do a good job. As we done in the States already, and we RIP, and we had to say rest in peace to Dogman X, boy. You know, we talked about it last week, and boy, it never looked good. You know what I mean? When you hear the stories about overdose and heart attack and overdose causing heart attack, and day by day, look, I keep searching his name on Twitter everywhere. I wasn't hearing much about it, and you hear the family on the way. When you hear the family on the way, that usually is a sign. But what was worrying was that they were saying that they're not getting any like recovery from his brain or heart recovery. It seemed as though every day he was just in the same vegetated state, and I suppose the family had to make a real hard decision to pull the plug. And boy, sad. He's one who bring a lot of his pain in the music he was listening to. Like it make us all go back and listen to plenty DMX music, I suppose. But like, you know, the thing about him that unique, even in his party kind of festive song, it have a rough, aggressive, painful kind of way he delivering it too, boy. And boy, listen, that's the rap world really lost one, boy. 50 years old. Like, I went back and listened to watch the whole verses with him and Snoop, and he looked so happy, boy. Sometimes he's looked so tormented, you know what I mean? He looked like he having a rough life, and you know he had the battles with the drugs and stuff over the years, but he looked real happy when he and Snoop was there, and it's so good that they get to show each other that respect before anything happens. You know, there's the two dog men in the business, and such different styles of music. But you could see where both of them respect each other, and he looking up to Snoop as a kind of OG. So Snoop would have been around a good while before him, and it showed too in the verses because Snoop had some hits, boy. Snoop just keep bringing hits. As a matter of fact, that Snoop's hits that Snoop leave on the table. But DMX hold his own, and boy, song by song, and especially when you look at Snoop reaction to Slippin', it hit different when you watch it after last week Friday. So rest in peace to DMX and condolences to his family. Like it's a lot of kids he leave behind and plenty legacy one. You know, the thing about it is when you have a catalog like that with music that's so powerful, even if when you close your eye, you wasn't the wealthiest man, it had, like they say, he had a negative net worth, and I mean, the man had his battles. But his catalog going to skyrocket, especially with streaming now, and hopefully it become extremely valuable and something that the family could live off of for perpetuity. And you know, I saw Swiss Beats talking about him too, and it's really emotional for him. Swiss Beats stick with DMX through the years. Like every time you see Swiss Beats, like every 6 months you hear him say, I'm working on something for DMX. Like he trying to give him an album to bring him back and them kind of thing. And of course, Swiss Beats would have been original Rough Rider. And I was looking, I guess I could do a rabbit hole going down, taking in DMX stuff this week. And I bounced up a video with DMX on Chappelle show. And boy, the video, Chappelle was saying that, listen, they really just asked DMX to do one song, but he keep doing more and more songs and he just get everything. And the man, hype man, was Swiss Beats. When I look at Swiss Beats, how young that man looking, it just goes to show how long two of them been working together and having their issues. And it's nice that when the world see him really center stage for the last time, because remember, them men not touring. Imagine the kind of frustration he going through too now, where you're custom touring and you're all over the place, and now you're locked down. It's a year now, you ain't performing a show or nothing. It's nice that the last performance he do, where the world see like that, was with Swiss Beats and a man like Snoop, and it was just one to cherish. So if you never get a chance to take it in, taking the verses between Snoop and DMX. All right, before we go, salute to Brian Charles Larry. You know we had a squeeze in a little sports, right? Even though they try to fight me. Salute to Brian Charles Larry. The 10th of April would make it 17 years since that man scored at 400 runs not out, boy. And it made me remember like where I was. I remember heading down to my arrow, boy, with my partner Prefat. And that game was going on. And then I don't think I was following cricket fully. Them days I was done despondent with West Indies and looking to lock them off already. But Lara had something special when he was into bat, boy. You know, you used to watch, it's like Tiger Woods playing golf. When Tiger playing golf, I wonder how he going, boy. Wait, now we're going with Tiger Woods, so I must check that. He had any accidents and things, you know, I never really hear nothing about that since then. I will check it. But when Tiger playing golf, everybody watching just to see how he going, and then by Thursday, Friday, once he make it on the weekend, viewership up big time. Everybody, even people like who ain't watching golf like myself, checking in to see if maybe he could come through. But when Lara was batting, it was just like that. For me, I don't know if it was like that for everybody else. I don't know if I used to sit down and follow the whole game. But by then, I ain't feeling West Indies too much. So I used to take in Lara. And you know, if you make a 50, that is normal thing. You know, you go out somewhere 70-something, 80-something. But by the time he starts to hit 100 now and he's settling, you want to find a radio or a TV where you could be up to date with what is happening, because he's the kind of fella could bat out 2-3 days when he in the mood. And I remember leaving town. When we leave town, he had passed the double century and thing, of course, already. And we just like marveling at it. By the time I got down to my arrow, they tell us, yeah, he make the 400. And it's like, I don't know if people remember that. Like growing up playing cricket and thing in school, when I was in Fatima, I used to play cricket, salute Mr. Ramdas and Mr. Fernandes and them men. Playing cricket in them times, 365 was a real significant thing. Because for every day of the year, Gary Sobers make a run in a test match. That was a thing we used to talk about all the time. That was something that anybody who grew up playing cricket in that era, it's like Sobers was like a literal legend, because we didn't have the internet to be able to search and see what a man looked like or see clips of his innings and things. It was like urban legend. Like there's somebody named Sobers from Barbados who have a 365 score, and every boy playing cricket had know that score. And then to watch Brian Lara first go to 375 was an amazing thing, because Lara went Fatima, and we were in school at the time when they would make the 375. They had call off classes. It was like a holiday in Fatima, because they were giving everybody the opportunity to come and see the run. So I remember going in Fatima Hall, ram-packed with children. And we just there to watch Lara reach that 375. It was right on that same St. John's ground in Antigua. And that would have been 1994. So I would have been Form 3 or Form 4 or something like that. And that was an amazing thing to see because, and them days are playing cricket like I fully into it them times. And it's almost impossible for anybody to move that 365. And that was set in 1958. So imagine how long that would be as a record. That was something that could not be broken. That is something that couldn't be moved. Just to get a sense of what the feeling was like back then, or if you could remember. It's an impossible score to make. And I remember it stuck out in my mind when we were in the hall watching it that Gary Sobers had come to the game. And it might have been the first time I really see who Gary Sobers is and what he looked like. And of course, in my simple mind, then Gary Sobers looked like an old man. So I think, but this old man make all them runs? Not realizing, of course, he'll make it as a young fella in 58. But he was there to watch it. And Chandapol, I'll never forget that, boy. They credit Chandapol just stand up there and bat with Lara, boy. He just makes sure he in out. So you have somebody there with you to make them runs. And anybody in the West Indies, Trinidadians especially, Guyanese too, will never forget how two of them hug up one another like, boy, we do this. Chandapol make that 375 as much as Lara had make it. And then after celebrating that, after 365 could not be moved, and Lara come now and put up 375, it's like, right, that is it. He's a legend for life. I don't start to see young boys go be watching Lara as an old man saying, boy, that's impossible. And Matthew Hayden come and break it, boy, and come and make some more runs. The man passed the 375. I think he make 385. And it was like, wait, that is it, you're going with the man legacy and them kind of thing. That again, for 365 to stand up for so much years and then 375 even stand up at all, 375 even make a note was something else. And then, you start to wonder if it's the technology in the game, the bat is plenty more drive in the bat now, ball coming on faster, you could make more runs, all them kind of things, more technique, studying bowlers and all that. You start to say, well, maybe for Sobers' time, that was it. And when Sobers was around, that is the only record could last so long. Now record go for a little time. Only for Lara to come back when I was talking about and that my arrow drive. And 17 years ago, and make that 400 not out. And that basically stand up there since then. So he back to see at 17 years now at that record. I think the closest man to come with him even past Matthew Hayden. He must have just passed Sobers, I believe. But again, who knows if it will be broken or not. But regardless of what, let me say you have 400 not out and you have 375. It's going to be a long time that Lara have two of the top scores and the top 10 scores ever in Test cricket. And that is legendary. So just salute to Brian Lara, and we had to commemorate this day. We had to find a better way to commemorate this day annually, but we must have something better we could do every year so that people remember that and take pride in it. Especially because we going into an era of youths now who would have never seen Lara bat. Keep that in mind, right? If you're in your late 30s, early 40s, if you're in your 20s, you never really watch Lara play, cricket and watch him bat and them kind of thing. Their heroes would be different from people like Lara. I think their heroes might be Bravo and them. Salute to them too. But it would be nice to find a way to commemorate the 400. And just as a suggestion, Fatima used to give a holiday every time Lara make runs. So maybe we could, holidays when he plays open back up. You see how it go. But I think that's it for me. I think I'm out of here. So I want to leave Holly with that song from Beckett again, because we leave in St Vincent, our prayers are with them again. And, I watched the thing with Barbados as I was talking about Sobers in Barbados. You all saw the amount of ash that get dumped over Barbados, boy, and Mia Motley. Boy, Mia Motley, common sense a man back into the place. It was shameful. But Barbados had to do their own cleanup and stuff, and we wishing them the best as well, because that didn't look like it was easy. I see a woman make a video 3 o'clock in the afternoon looking like nighttime. That ain't gonna be no easy thing. But what St Vincent going through right here, boy, and I mean these islands are so much to give, And we just had to be there for them in times like these. So I seen all the Caribbean celebrities posting about it, artists and athletes and everybody. So I just do my part to keep it at the forefront and make sure that we keep St. Vincent our presence. And salute to Traveling too. Like, I'm watching Instagram and Traveling, not just with this St. Vincent thing, like Traveling doing a lot to collect and gather stuff to send up to St. Vincent. You're seeing a lot on his Instagram. And, it's something that he's usually do. Like, usually when things going on, you could look to Traveling to start a drive, to collect money, to collect water, foodstuffs, whatever it is to get up the road. So salute to Traveling in this time, and love and prayers go out to St. Vincent. Taking Beckett without my terrible singing over it.
St. Vincent, my homeland, you gave me no mansion, no gold, no diamond, yet I love you a million for the things that you have to offer. Is more than my heart's desire. Lovely beach, tropical breeze, always there within my reach. I love you, St. Vincent, me sweet little island, St. Vincent. I love you, St. Vincent, home of the blessed St. Vincent. St. Vincent, St. Vincent, sunrise, can look at the sunset. Sweet Mother Nature, such beauty, such splendor. Can live my life without fear. Freedom to go anywhere. You got love and you got peace. From La Sofre the Grenadines, I love you, St. Vincent, me sweet little island, St. Vincent. I love you, St. Vincent, home of the blessed St. Vincent. St. Vincent, St. Vincent, wailing time is any time, and any time is wailing time. I love you, St. Vincent, me sweet little island, St. Vincent. I love you, St. Vincent, me high room, St. Vincent. St. Vincent, St. Vincent, I love crayfish and callaloo, sauce dumpling and manicook, roast breadfruit, blackfish ribs, and much, much more deliciousness. I love you, St. Vincent, me sweet little island, St. Vincent. I love you, St. Vincent, home of the blessed St. Vincent. St. Vincent, St. Vincent, I love you.
All right, guys, I'll see you all in next week. Thanks for listening. Bye.